And good morning. Welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I am Ken Walls and I'm your host. And I have a really awesome lady on today. Her name is Lindsey Wander, and I'm excited for you to hear her story. So stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Let's do this. I've got the one and only Lindsey Wander waiting backstage. Let's go ahead and bring Lindsey on. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Hi, one and only.
The one and only. I've never met another one.
Well, here we go.
So, Lindsey, I started this show a couple years ago, and it was to help people have a breakthrough in life. And I truly believe that when we hear someone else's story of how they've hit the hard times and they got through it, and I just think that that's healing for us. So I love hearing other people's stories. I can't wait to hear yours. I know you're in the beautiful tropical city of Chicago.
You'll probably hear the sirens in the background at some point, I'm sure.
Wow. So, hey, we've got some folks watching already. We've got Mr. Ben Gay III. He is a legendary sales trainer. Ernest Odell, thank you for sharing, my good friend down in Lubbock, Texas. So, and we have other people watching too. So, Lindsey, let's start with you telling everybody where you were born and raised.
Ooh, good question. I was born in Colorado Springs, then raised in Reno, then moved to Southern California. And from there, the list, once I graduated high school and college, the list went a little crazy. I kind of went all over the place. But I guess I would consider myself a California girl since I was there from about the age of 7 till about 22, but with a little bit of that kind of mountain flavor because we were in, Lake Tahoe and in Colorado for my younger years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you have the perfect last name.
Thank you. So It's funny because my mom always says, I blame your last name for this. Because, I literally, the minute I could, even when I graduated high school, I was like, what are you thinking? Why are you so sad I'm leaving? I'm never here anyway. I've literally just been on the go as soon as I possibly could, just exploring and traveling as any chance I could get. And I'm the one that will pick up and move across the world if it feels right, kind of thing. And here I am, I'm in Chicago. Yeah, I mean, in 9 years ago, I picked up and moved to Chicago too. And this is actually the only place I've been where I'm like, all right, it's 9 years, which is incredible for me. So it's a great city.
Yeah. I've been to Chicago. I've only been there a couple of times, and once was to drive through, headed up to Waukegan. Yeah, Waukegan.
Yeah.
Waukegan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my brother was in the Naval Academy. And then up there for my wife's cousin or something, lived up that way. But yeah, it's an interesting city, especially going through downtown in the middle of rush hour. That was fun.
Well, come now because it's a ghost town and it's incredible. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the people of Chicago have done a pretty good job with a lot of things. They're very proud people and hardworking, and I love it here. I'm happy here.
I kind of feel like when we're growing up as kids, that seems like there's always something that occurs, maybe an event or people or a person that almost shapes us and pushes us in the direction that we go professionally. Is there a person that pops out or an event that pops out in your head that makes you go, yeah, I know that was it?
I'm one of those people, and that's a really good question, and I haven't really thought about that. I'm one of those people who I've been really lucky with the teachers I've gotten. I've had some teachers in my life in really formative years who, for me, I think learning always kind of came easy, and I was almost frustrated with other people who weren't getting it quick enough. So it came out as behavior issues. And I had teachers who saw through that and knew I just needed a little bit extra to keep me engaged. And they would go the extra mile to give me what I needed to keep my mind active. And I just had, from kindergarten, I remember third grade, I had an amazing teacher through middle school. I had a couple in high school, a few in college that I still have relationships with that were, I think, really inspired in me a love for learning and the ability to be more mindful of my own thought processes and be more engaged in what I was learning. So
wow,
I think that's probably what led me to a lot of where I am now as an educator.
Yeah, well, we haven't told anybody that yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah, so you sorry, a comment just threw me off. So where you moved so many times, where did you graduate high school? Was it Southern California?
It was, yeah. Okay. Southern California in a little town called Simi Valley, in Ventura County, a little above LA. And then I went to college at Fresno State. And it's really, looking back on a lot of that and then what I do now where I'm coaching kids through high school and into college. There's a lot of things that I look at what I did and I didn't know at the time, but I'm realizing how formative it was. For instance, going to a smaller college, I was able to build really good relationships with my professors to the point that they really shaped me down a career path that I love. So I think that a lot of the ways that I've kind of come to where I am now has to do with the teachers in my life.
And I'll bet you were a straight A student.
Man, I had 1 B in physics and PE and homeroom. I was quite talkative. Wow. I know it's hard to believe, but yeah, I was valedictorian, gave the speech at graduation, got a full ride for college, all that fun stuff.
You were the girl I always made best friends with, so I could lean over and look at your paper during class.
I wouldn't have let you. I would have met with you after school and taught it to you. Made you learn it.
So
yeah. But I was the one I worked really, really hard. So there were some people who I feel, and I see it now, they get straight A's just showing up to class and taking the test, but I really worked for it.
Yeah. Good. That's good though. So after college, where did you end up? You got a job, I assume, doing something.
Yeah, so this is interesting because I'm very much in the city now, and even my family and my childhood friends are like, what happened? So I instantly, from high school, went up to the Olympic National Park in Washington, which is our only rainforest in the United States.
Yeah.
And I started doing environmental studies on actually marmots, which are groundhogs, essentially, and how they were going extinct. So we were out in the backcountry for 2 weeks at a time in places where humans had never been. Literally, sometimes it would take us 2-3 days just to get to a site. And the marmots lived in alpine meadows. So we're talking the highest of these really steep mountains because they were formed by glaciers. Wow. And, in the snow, and it was unreal. I did that for about 4 or 5 months. And my boss, I showed up with flowers painted on my toenails, and she was like, what the heck is this girl doing here? And I ended up taking over the team, and she brought me on the next year as well because she was like, you were one of my best. Wow. It was awesome. I mean, I fell in love with that forest. It's just beautiful.
And did they pay you for that?
They give you, when you have an internship, they give you housing and then they give you a stipend. So it was enough to be able to explore the Pacific Northwest and to survive, but I definitely didn't come out of it, wealthy. Right. It was more, my reason for doing the internships is I graduated I originally went to college for biomedical engineering. And when I was doing, yeah, right. And
Wow.
It's so interesting when you break it down, the molecular and the biochemistry of genetics and everything is so interesting to learn. But then when you're sitting in a lab and doing the lab work, it was, for me, soul sucking. I hated it. So I actually switched my biology major to an ecology emphasis, and Fresno is right at the base of Yosemite. So I was up in Yosemite almost every day doing studies and just fell in love, which my background growing up in Colorado and Nevada, it makes sense. Yeah. So when I had these degrees, I had my biology, my chemistry, and my math, and I was like, well, what can I do with these? So I started doing various internships, which provided me the opportunity to not only test out potential career fields before I jumped into it, but allowed me to travel for essentially free. And I love traveling somewhere and being there rather than just going for a week and staying in a resort or something. I like the idea of going there and living there for 4, 5, 6 months and really establishing a life there. So after Washington, I had an internship in Pennsylvania. I was by Penn State up in the mountains. I was an environmental ed intern. That's where I fell in love with education. Wow. Then I went to Ireland, and I was
Ireland.
Yeah, I went to Ireland, to Northern Ireland, and it's, one thing, you meet someone here that then says, oh, there's a job here. So I was writing grants for them and helping to build their outdoor center. And then I went to Thailand, and then I was teaching English. Yeah, then I came back and went to up in Yosemite. I worked for Camp Edison. So I was just kind of testing all these things out, but I just kept finding myself drawn more and more to the education world.
So, wow. My wife actually, and I don't know if I think it was in college. She went on a big exploration trip to Yosemite, and they studied something. I think it was a wolf or something. I don't know. But yeah, and the Pacific Northwest, by the way, I used to live in Seattle, and it is
unreal.
It's truly, if it weren't for the traffic, I would still live in Seattle. The traffic, it's worse than LA. I don't care what anybody says.
You're right.
So it is. There's one interstate, the I-5 corridor, and that's it. Like there's nothing else. So
that forest up there, if there's anyone listening that hasn't been up to the Olympic National Park, you've got to get there. It is just crazy that that's in the United States, and people don't even know about it, but it's beautiful.
Is that north of Seattle?
It's like northwest on the peninsula. So you have to ferry in. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. Really? So it's northwest of Seattle?
Yeah.
So it's almost in Vancouver.
Essentially, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's beautiful. You have the beaches with the rainforest with, there's glaciers. I would be up right next to a glacier, camping by a glacier. I mean, it's just unreal.
Can you see Rainier from there?
I believe so. I know I could from where we lived.
Yeah.
Because we were in a town called Port Angeles.
Yep. I know where that is, actually.
Yeah, that's where we lived.
Wow. That's really cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. It's beautiful. I don't think I've ever been up to the rainforest. I know I haven't. I was never up there.
Most people don't even know there's a rainforest here in the United States. But it's funny because I look back at it now, and we were out sleeping on just frozen ground, getting rained on. And I'm thinking now, with literally only what I can carry on my back, including all the equipment, for 2 weeks at a time. And I'm just like, no, I would so not do that nowadays. I mean, I like my bed in my shower. So I'm really glad I did it when I was young and had the back for it.
Yeah, right.
But I really encourage, especially the younger people, to get out there moving for sure.
Yeah. So you did you ever like land a full-time corporate job or anything, or like?
So the internship, I know, thank you, mother. You know, oh, come on, when are we going to grow up here? I'm like, calm down.
No, it's not. I don't. Hey, I love what you've done, and I'm just, you know, honestly, what everything you've talked about so far is so against the grain that kids are taught.
Totally. And here's the thing: I graduated with no debt. I traveled the world with no debt. You know, I ended up going back to school, and because of all the all the qualifications and experience I had, they hired me immediately as I was getting my schooling. So I was getting paid while I was going, because I ended up going back to school to get my teaching credential.
Wow.
And normally you have to get the credential and have all these hours teaching before you can have your own classroom. They were like, you have all this experience already. We're going to give you a classroom right away. So as I was in school, I wasn't just doing the free teaching hours. I was actually had my own classroom that I was getting paid for while I was getting, you know, the hours I needed for school. So it ended up, you know, working out. I ended up getting my credential for essentially free. So, you know, here I am with all of this experiences and no debt, and ended up finding a career path that I'm obsessed with. So no, I didn't jump right into it, but and it is a little against the grain, but it was very exploratory. And it's funny now looking back, you really don't know what you don't know, you know?
Right.
And looking back, there's so many of those experiences that had I not had them, I wouldn't be nearly as good at my job today. So I'm thankful for all of those weird things I did.
Well, no, and I get it. I totally get it. I just think that, you know, we're teaching, and you and I may have opposing viewpoints with this. I don't know. But I'm going to bring it up and we'll see.
Huh?
I think that I think it's tragic that we force almost a 17 or 18-year-old child to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives and go pick out a degree. And I mean, I know people, I have a lot of friends who are in the medical field who are doctors or dentists. And I know one that has $300,000 in debt from college and hates being a dentist, you know, and it's like, well, you decided that at 17 years old. Like, you know, I feel like we should allow our kids, they should go out and either join the military so you get that global experience, or figure out what you've done and go have a global experience and travel and figure out what it is that you want to do before you decide what it is you want to do forever.
Exactly. You know, I coach kids in this now, and I mean, I didn't find what I wanted to do until my 30s, you know, like I know people sometimes in their 40s, 50s that end up doing a career shift. The way that I present it to them is to pick a subject that you're interested in, because I still knew the area. I knew I wasn't over here, I was in here. So at least you're building skills and building knowledge in at least an area that you're interested in. But choosing a career at that age is pretty ridiculous. And not only that, there's so much to be gained from that real world experience that you don't necessarily gain by just jumping right into college, which has its own value as well. There's a lot of, you know, value in going to college or going to a trade school. You learn a lot of other skills in that, but picking up and going somewhere unfamiliar and looking people in the eye who are completely different than you and hearing their stories and making it and going through daily challenges and being okay. There's just so many skills and characteristics that you develop as a result of that you really can't teach. So there are some of my students, and I know I'm keep giving it away, but I really do encourage them to take that gap year and to get out there and do volunteer opportunities or to take internships, because they are a little even uncertain of an area to study. You know, they haven't even narrowed that down. And why jump into something and come out with $300,000 in debt? And then you're like, yep, I don't even like this. And then what do you do? And people say it's just your job. It's 8 hours a day, but it's not. I mean, you know, if you're miserable 8 hours a day, that really affects the type of person you are.
Yeah.
And even now when I meet people, one of my first questions is, what do you do and are you happy? Because I really think that is very formative to the type of person they are if they're unhappy in their jobs.
And I think that, you know, my buddy Wes Wyatt says I'm almost 52 and still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You know, I just turned 52 and I'm like, you know, I've had some pretty big shifts here in the last few years. So I think though that people, I think we have a global kind of awakening that's been occurring over the last couple of decades. But I also think that there are still people who have this fear of shifting gears. I don't know how else to put it.
It's
like
stigmatized, I think. Like to be in your 50s and switch. Yeah. People look at that as almost indecisive or a weakness, where I look at it as you're a lifelong learner and you're constantly growing and changing. And I don't see why that's a negative.
I agree.
Right. And so it's just the perception that we need to change.
Here, Joe Ingram, good friend in Southern California, Orange County. He says, what percentage of the people answer something positive when you ask what they do and are they happy?
Good question. So there's, I would say majority, because I think I tend to attract people who have similar energy. Yeah. But if I do meet someone and they're like, nah, I hate it, or, you know, they're instantly complaining about it, it's a flag to me to kind of be like, back out, or to try to assist in, you know, guiding them down a right path. But it generally shows a state of mind for sure. Yeah. And even people who maybe aren't fully happy in their job, but say something like, well, you know, it's kind of a means to an end, but I'm working on this thing on the side that I'm eventually going to transfer over to. Okay, you know, that's fine. Yeah. But the ones who have the mentality of I'm stuck and I just gotta, this is it, the end. I think that there's a difference between quitting and letting go of something that doesn't serve you. Right. And I think that some people blend them. So I'm one, if it doesn't make me happy, I just don't do it. And I've had jobs. I had a job once that I quit at lunchtime on my first day. So, because I was just like, I don't want to do this. I'm miserable. It was a telemarketing job over the summer. And I was like, I'm so not this person.
Like 400 people hung up on me and called me.
Not only that, it was like this weird hazing thing they do. It was just weird. But that's the thing. I'm not going to do it if it doesn't make me happy. And when I moved to Chicago, I started trying to find. I was teaching in California. Sorry, I keep giving it away. But when I started working,
go ahead. We can talk about it.
We can go back and forth. But it was the same thing. I worked with schools for a few weeks, and I was like, I'm just not happy doing this. So let's shift. And, you know, I was 30 and shifted gears. Yeah. So sometimes you have to listen to yourself, listen to your heart. And if that means pivoting, then as long as you're not doing it in a way that's damaging to other people, I don't think there's a problem with it.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. I mean, you know, there's I just did a post this morning about fear and you know, we are so freaking afraid of being judged by others. We're so afraid of what's everybody going to think if people generally aren't thinking about you anyway. So
they're worried about themselves and what people are thinking about them.
Yeah. They may stop for a minute and go, well, that was odd. She was a doctor and then decided to become a carpenter. Like what? But I mean,
I got that when I switched from potentially being a biomedical engineer, you know, to now I became a teacher in South Central California. It was like, I mean, I was told I'm wasting my intelligence, that, you know, all kinds of stuff. And it was hard, you know, I was young, but at that point I knew I needed to follow my own path.
Joe wants to dig into the hazing thing. He needs more ideas for new hires.
No, it was awful. The worst part of it was when I went in before I went to lunch. So I'm a college student. I'm in my first year of college. This is during summer. I'm going home. And the guy pulls me aside and goes, you're actually pretty good at this. I could pay you more than if you finished college. He's trying to talk me into not going back to college.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not working for that.
And this was at the telemarketing firm?
Yes.
Now, so were you good at it?
Apparently, but so what? Like, don't tell a kid who's in college on a full ride, don't go back. That's ridiculous.
Okay. Well, okay. I agree with you. However, I've had a marketing firm for many years, and I had this kid come in one time, and he had to have an internship with a marketing firm to graduate. So it was in between his junior and senior year. And I said, are we talking paid or unpaid? What he's like, oh no, it has to be paid. And I go, okay, well, so what kind of money are you talking? And he goes, I was thinking 20. I go, 1,000? And he goes, no, $20 an hour. I go, get out of my office, dude. Good luck. Right. Like you don't come to a small business looking for an internship that you have to graduate and demand what you and I think that there is there's this other side, because I know you deal with kids and you coach these kids, so we're going to talk about this. But like, there's a what's the word?
Entitlement.
Entitlement. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, there's just this sense of entitlement throughout the freaking the younger generation. I mean, I started my company fresh out of a divorce. Horrible. I couldn't finance a bologna sandwich, so I had no money. I got a $20 loan from a buddy, and I went out and pounded on doors, knocking on. I mean, like, that's where I started. And to have a kid come in and tell me he wants $20 an hour so I can teach him is insane. I don't get that.
Here's where I think that comes from, because that's definitely the generation right below ours.
Yes.
The newer generation, totally different story. So the kids that are middle, high school, elementary, different story. But the generation right behind ours, I think what happened is parents and educators, adults, were so afraid to have their child suffer in any way or struggle that they made everything too easy for their kid.
Yep.
And that child never learned the value of hard work. They never learned the pride of achieving something or how to be resilient when they failed. And everything was just kind of handed to them.
That's so true.
Yes. And look what it did. Look what it resulted in. These people who have kind of no accountability and also very high entitlement. And so that's definitely something I really work on with the kids. I let them struggle, because there's learning. Look, what your whole talk is about. There's learning and struggle. Yep. And in going through the downs and coming back out, next time that happens, you can handle it. Yeah. And you take on bigger risks and bigger challenges. There's just so much value in letting them feel that. And I think that it doesn't mean we're bad parents or educators. I think that the idea of love was doing so much for the kid, but it really was counterproductive.
To put it in layman's terms, we're coddling our kids too much. Yeah. I think it was Shakespeare or somebody way smarter than me that said, the greatest disservice we do to our children is to steal away their hunger. And Ooh,
that's good.
Right? So it's like,
wow.
My 10-year-old, she has a debit card we got her for her birthday. I have complete, and so does my wife, complete control over it. And the only way she gets money is she has to work for it.
Good.
Like, she has to do the dishes, fold laundry, she has to run. Her favorite thing in the world is to run the vacuum. She's real tiny, so she hates running the vacuum. Yeah. But I'm like, hey,
what's the point of having kids if you're not going to put them to work in the house?
I know, right?
Yeah. No, but I mean, there's so much value in that.
Yes. Struggle is when you learn. Brian Wagner, my buddy, the Brian with one eye. That's what he goes by, Brian with one eye, because he has one eye, one good eye. But anyway, so and wow, we have some superstars on here. And Weldon just said he's guilty of that. Yeah. I know that I have been guilty of it.
And we just need to be more conscious of it. That's all. It doesn't, like I said, if anything, what is your problem? You love too much, Yeah. And it's not that big of a deal, but if we can change our vocabulary to our children or the experiences we give to them, and sometimes just knowing when to step back and just let them be bored and figure it out, is hard, but so valuable. And it makes things easier down the line.
My wife says guilty.
Yeah.
She is. Jill, what did you go to? Where was it? The national park, the Yosemite. I said she went to Yosemite to study something. Tell.
It was wolves.
Wolves or coyotes or something. So look, we have a very famous guy on, Doug Wing. His father is the founder of the Little Giant Ladder Company.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Little Giants, or do you have
but I
one?
see it on the words now. Yeah.
Yeah. Little it's a humongous global company, and their ladders are phenomenal. I have two of them. Yes, I know it was Yellowstone, my dear. She said, yeah. But anyway, so learning how to. You gotta learn how to fall on your face, fail fast, get back up, wipe the dirt off, wipe your tears away, and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, that's a coping mechanism that helps in so many ways. It helps avoid addiction. It helps with depression. It helps with anxiety. I mean, there's just so many, not only that, but mental health aspects to it as well, by just letting somebody kind of fail. And then being there to support them and hug them, when that happens, but to let them find their own way back up.
Got it.
Oh, the gray wolf. Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. I would have loved to be in Yellowstone. Yellowstone's gorgeous.
It's Yellowstone.
Yeah, I was in Yosemite.
Okay. They're not close to each other.
They're both over on the west side, but they're not the same. They're in this kind of same region.
Yeah. So man, we went off on a side road there. Let's get back on the main road. Okay. So you traveled all over the world.
Yeah.
And let's see, you said Ireland. What other country?
So when I was in Ireland, so that's one of the things I love about the internships is when you have the internship, you're so close to all the stuff now that normally it'd be a huge trip. So yes, I was in Ireland, but then I did all the countries around there because I would work 4 days on and certain days off. Then I left Ireland, sent all my basically freezing cold clothes back to California, and just trekked right down to Thailand and did all of Southeast Asia, doing various teaching jobs there, and basically just living my best life in Asia, $5 a day. It was great. And then came back and did an internship again back up in Yosemite at Camp Edison. So yeah, I was kind of all over. So even though it was mainly just the hub of Ireland and Thailand, I did so many countries in that time, just taking advantage of it and experiencing life.
Now, and you have red hair, right?
So it is red now.
So you fit right in Ireland.
So I'm naturally blonde.
Oh, really?
I know, everyone's shocked, but when I'm blonde, no one can believe I'm red. And so I was blonde when I was in Ireland. But yeah, I'm blonde. Now it's probably mostly white, let's be real. But yeah. And it's funny, my family say they still, when they look for me at the airport, they're looking for a blonde. It's still, even all these years, been hard for them to adjust to the red. But yes.
Wow.
I think it suits me more.
Yeah, wow. I was trying to like think of something witty about the red hair in Ireland. So
Well,
wow.
What's funny is in Ireland there's not that many redheads actually.
Really?
The idea of what you think an Irish person looks like is not actually very true, and I was surprised by that as well. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So Ireland must have been beautiful though.
So Ireland is beautiful. But how many hills and sheep can you look at? So I was, by the end of 5-6 months, I was like, all right, take me somewhere tropical. I need some forests and trees,
Yeah.
I had a great time there. I met some friends who are still incredible family to me. But after a little while, I was like, okay, the rock walls are pretty. There's castles everywhere. I mean, literally, I would go to a convention in a castle like every week. There was castles. I love the family values there. There's a lot to love about Ireland, but I was also ready to go.
Wow. Doug says, I have a 26-year-old son who's a total snowflake. I had to fire him. Oh my God. Wow.
Well, hopefully he's not. Well, maybe he should be watching this actually. Yeah.
Do what?
I said, hopefully he's not watching, but I guess maybe it would be good for him to watch.
Oh, you got to wake up. I mean, that's the thing. Again, we've all, maybe not you, because you do seem to be fairly perfect. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No,
it's true. I mean, we all do it.
We all do stupid
things.
Sometimes
it seems the easiest way. Sometimes, even when I'm teaching, sometimes I'm like, God, it would just be so much easier to just give them the answer and tell them how to do it,
Right.
But
because you're frustrating me.
Yes. Right. And I get it. Especially if there's a million other things. I mean, this is my livelihood, so it's totally different. But, again, we have to learn the lesson of the struggle as well. So going through that hard time, it's going to have the benefit down the line of not having to fire our 26-year-old snowflake son. So it's worth it.
He's probably out protesting, setting businesses on fire.
Lord.
I'm kidding. I just open up. I should close that can. No hate mail, please. So anyway, so at some point though, you decided, you wanted to be an educator.
Yeah.
And work with, you're working primarily with high school kids, right?
So when I first went back to get my teaching credential, I got a credential so I could teach in middle school. So when I was a teacher for several years, as crazy as people think I am, I was teaching 7th grade biology and math. And as a classroom teacher, that is my favorite age. I just love that preteen age. They're so much fun.
How old, what is that, 11, 12 years old?
Yeah, right at that, before the big growth spurt, right when they're in that level of where they're still kids, but they're really wanting their independence. So there's a really fragile line there of guiding them, but letting it be their own choice. And at the end of the day, they still want to please you. So they want to make you proud, and they still care about you as a person. They're not so hung up on their phones and their friends. They really care about you. So there's a relationship that you can really build with students at that age in coaching them through their life. And I loved it. Just loved it. And I taught for a couple of years in Fresno in a low-income neighborhood, and then went down to South Central California, which is also a low-income neighborhood. So I was working with a different class of students that I tend to work with now. But one of the things that brought me into it was giving the students two things. One, a reason to come to school. I wanted them to come. And a lot of them told me, I come for your class. And I'm like, great. And then also to realize how much they love to learn, just enjoy learning in general.
Wow.
And my goal was to set them up for high school so that even if they don't remember, I was teaching biology. So if they don't remember the steps of mitosis, who cares? They had fun learning it, is really what I was kind of trying to drive home with the kids. And we I did a lot of student-centered learning, which was a lot of work to set up. It was a lot of tapping into my own creativity. But there was one of those things that once I put in all the effort, the room would just run itself. So the kids would come in, they knew what to do, they were in control of their own learning, they were exploring what they were interested in, but I was still hitting my standards and making sure they were going on the right path. And it was awesome. Just a magical place. I mean, I was invited to quinceañeras, to birthday parties. You know, the parents were like, "You're my family." Yeah, in everyday life, exactly. And that's the thing. I think a lot of teachers have to let go of the ego a little bit. You know, like, yes, we have to hit these standards, but what's the underlying thing I'm really trying to teach the children here? Does it really matter if they remember the order? You know, or is it more the process of understanding there is a process to something and connecting it to real life? And that's, you know, we have to, as educators, sometimes back it up and say, what are my learning goals here? It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal if they don't remember every single little thing, and don't take offense to it, you know?
You know, fun fact, Lindsey.
Okay.
Fun fact. You taught biology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was called into the guidance counselor's office my senior year, a few months before graduation. And he says, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good. What's up?" "Well, you didn't get a biology credit in 10th grade. And I said, "Yeah, I hated that class. It sucked. And I'm never going to use that in real life. So what's your point?" He goes, "Well, you have to have that credit to graduate." Meanwhile, I'm getting straight A's in algebra, trigonometry, analytic geometry, everything, calculus. I'm just killing it. I'm helping kids with their algebra and their math stuff. I loved math, but I hated biology, and probably more the teacher than the class. But
I knew it, yeah.
And I said, "I'm never going to dissect a frog ever again in my entire life. So can you just, like, you know, give me a hall pass on this deal and give me the piece of paper that says that?" And he's like, "No, you have to come back next year for a whole year." I said, "Dude, that's insane." So I tried negotiating for about 15 minutes. It escalated. I realized it wasn't going to work I wasn't going to win this battle. So I said, "Well, then goodbye." And I got up and went to my locker, got my stuff, and I left and never went back. And so it's kind of like
over the biology class.
I wasn't coming back for a whole year for a biology credit.
I wouldn't.
You know, now I went out and got into sales immediately and realized that I don't need biology. I don't need biology to make it in life. So now I'm not encouraging kids to quit high school. I'm not. Right. And I never went back and got a GED. I always felt like that would be an admission of failure. So I never did that. But at 21 years old, I'm like, I fell in love with reading, and I started just reading everything I could get my hands on. And interestingly enough, eventually I started getting not interested in biology, but more of a molecular energy kind of stuff. You know, anyway, fun fact, just thought I'd throw that out there. So it was my biology teacher that I hated.
It's kind of happened the same with me. I was never really into history. And with my older years and traveling is when I started becoming more curious about it and learning about it by choice. So I get what you're saying there. Yeah. The thing is, I you know, you hear stories like that a lot where a person doesn't have their diploma or their GED and they ended up being extremely successful. Now it's just so different. It's just so competitive that it's very hard to get anywhere if you don't have some kind of higher education, unfortunately. Yeah. So I know. And then a lot of these kids hear these stories and they're like, "Well, the owner of this didn't do this." I'm like, "Yeah, well, he's 60. Like, you're in a different generation now." Yeah.
And I mean, look, first off, Jim Rohn. Have you ever heard of Jim Rohn? Do you know who Jim Rohn is? Well, his 18-year business partner, Kyle Wilson, was watching. I don't know if he's still watching the interview, but Jim Rohn had a saying, and I know I'm going to butcher it. So somebody correct me after I butcher. I'm a high school dropout, so I screw a lot of.
Yeah, you get it back.
But Joe, I sold my vice principal my car and had an easy senior year. That's awesome. Go. So Jim Rohn had a saying, a formal education will earn you a living.
Yeah.
Self-education will earn you a fortune. Something like that. And so I learned at 20-ish years old that, and maybe I heard Jim Rohn say that, I don't know, but I learned around the year of 20 that holy crap, like, and I also, and I have a feeling you're like this. I also always felt like, well, these thoughts, these teachings, these books that we're learning out of, they originated somewhere. Somebody originated that stuff. Why can't it be me? Like, why can't I go deeper than what they're teaching in these books? And I always encourage education, but take responsibility for it yourself. Whether that's in
there it is. Yeah, that's our education system in a nutshell. I mean, exactly. I think that we're so hung up on putting into these kids, you need to know this formula, you need to know this name of this, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And that maybe builds their knowledge. But if you're not a learner, if we don't teach them how to learn, how to question, how to investigate, how to seek answers that they don't know, how to stand up for themselves and advocate. If we don't teach them or give them opportunities to do that, then all they're going to do is be like robotic, and we're basically shutting down their innate qualities, because all kids, we know, are curious and inquisitive, and we shut it down. And that's setting them up for failure, for sure. And a life of unhappiness, probably going into a field that they don't enjoy. So I think the purpose of school should be, yes, we're giving them the spark.
Yeah.
We're giving them, here's what someone else discovered, take it further, and feel comfortable going further with it and take that risk, know?
Yeah.
But we have classrooms that are too big now. I had classrooms of 45. I didn't even have a desk. It's a lot of management. You're just trying to get into
45 in 45. One class?
Yep, and I had like 6 classes.
Where was this?
This is when I was in South Central. Yeah. And also when I was in Fresno, a lot of it had to do with, because I got a lot of the behavior issue kids, the teachers who were like, I can't handle them, send them to Lindsey, and then they would be fine in my class. Really? So I would always start with a lower number, and then by middle of the year, I'd have like an excessive amount. But, and I think that's one of my specialties is those, because maybe I was kind of a behavior issue as well. I look deeper at what's going on with that kid. And a lot of it is they just need that spark. They need to be engaged more or have someone believe in them rather than just throwing information. Because a lot of those behavior issues are some of the most intelligent and will probably be the biggest movers and shakers, these people who fought their principal about not taking a biology class,
I've done, and it's crazy because now I've done, I've been hired to do public speaking at events and I've had people say, would you ever consider speaking to a high school? And I'm like, yeah, quit, everybody get out. You're being brainwashed. I'm kidding. No, but I think that what my message would be is exactly what you just said is, man, life's going to be tough, really, really tough if you don't fall in love with or figure out a way to wrap your heart and your heart and your soul around the desire to learn more. Because like I have that crazy desire, like that if I'm not busy, which is rare, but if I'm not busy, I'll open up the Kindle app on my phone and just start reading a book that I'm reading. Or if I'm on a walk or a jog or I'm listening to a book. That's just, there's so much knowledge and I want it,
And that's what makes you successful and purposeful and happy and fulfilled. Yeah. And those are things you don't get from memorizing math formulas, So, and that's that's an innate happiness. It's not contingent on what other people think. You just feel genuinely very content.
Yeah.
And that's what is important. And imagine a group of those people, and this is my mission, to get a whole horde of people with that mentality as our next generation in power, you know. And I say making them competent, but also conscious. So giving them the knowledge, but also giving them the right mindset and putting them in a leadership position.
Yeah.
So, and I agree also with what Joe was saying. It's funny, I just had a conversation with a student about this yesterday, and I work really heavily on metacognition with my kids and thinking about their own thinking. And, you know,
I love that.
Yeah, and it's really great to see the evolution of them, even after just a few sessions. And the first couple sessions with him, he was like, well, I'm just not smart and I'm not this. Yesterday, he was like, my brain just processes differently. So I'll analyze it, but I usually am coming up with my own way to do it. And I'm like, good for you. And he was actually showing me better ways to do things. Do it. And the fact that you give it to me, your instructor, good job. You know, I love it. So he's now seeing himself differently. His confidence is different. He's feeling empowered and understanding the way his brain thinks. And that's where, like, that's the learning. Yes, his ACT score will be higher too. Great. Okay, that's what we're working on. But there's more. I'm really trying to get in there and shape their little minds, you know?
And I love that. And it's like, that is such an important freaking part of society, and we put no attention on it. It's like, there's a book called The Four Agreements, and written by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's one of my favorite books. I recommend it to everyone. In the very beginning, before he gets into the Four Agreements, he talks about the programming of the human and how we're born, and we're programmed by, you know, events and teachers and parents and we don't really put that much thought into, let's just shuffle our kids off to school. And if they get a, you know, below a B, then berate them with a bunch of crap. And here's what I say to my kids. It's like, I don't care. I don't care if you get, I don't believe in the grading system. So bring home an F. I don't care. It just means that we have something to work on. And maybe it's just not your thing. It is possible, right? That it's just not your thing. And then, oh, that kid's ADD, let's put him on medication. Makes me crazy. Like, seriously, like, I was ADD. I know nobody said it, but I know I was.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, and I have that squirrel, you know, and I'm gone. You know, like,
imagine if you had been boxed in. Imagine if you weren't allowed to flourish, what kind of person you'd be now.
Oh.
So that's one of the things I really work, and with my ADD kids especially, I love, sometimes I can see it in their face. They're a little off. And I'm like, what are you thinking about? And I give them, you know, a couple minutes to go off and to say, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's related, it's on topic, but their mind went here. And then you just kind of guide them, because we still have things we got to do, you know, there's still an interview to be done and all of that. We got to learn that skill to guide, but let's table that, and we're going to come back to it. And then I give them things to explore that interest later. But we can't box these kids in. And I think that the ADD is definitely a symptom of, and I'm going to be really unpopular in saying this, but of a lot of our education system, of really getting these kids. I think our education system, as we found out from the pandemic, is a glorified childcare. We, like you said, are just shipping our kids off so we can work, and we're not really thinking, I'm saying this very generally, but most people aren't probably thinking about what's happening there and are looking at it, the surface value. But as soon as that got taken away, these kids were lost. Yep. And that's a clear sign that we are doing these children a disservice. And I understand that it's hard. I was a teacher, like I said, in a classroom of 45. I'm not blaming the teachers, I'm not blaming the schools, but we need to consider different ways of teaching that allows those kids to explore their personal interests, to find their unique voice, to have that spark of innovation, rather than just boxing them in, because we got to manage a classroom. And there's a way to manage a classroom and still let them be free. In fact, it requires more work, but it's actually much easier down the line. You know, I had a lot of work Saturday and Sunday, but then my Monday through Friday was a breeze. So,
you know, I've known a lot of teachers that not, and I'm not saying this is all teachers. I'm saying I've known personally a lot of teachers that are, you know, looking forward to going to the bar on Friday night, or so they can sit around and drink and bitch about their kids in their classrooms, and maybe it's not to the bar, but maybe it's just sitting around complaining about how, you know, parents aren't doing, and I get that parents are not doing enough. I get it. Totally get that.
We can point fingers all day long. How about we do this? You know?
Oh my God. This is okay. Officially my favorite interview. No, you're right. And teaching our kids to do that. Mm-hmm. Teaching our kids.
It's not hard. It's really just changing your language on a lot of things, you know? Yeah. Instead of saying, when the kid says, I can't do that, it's, I can't do it yet. You know, it's just little tweaks to, you know, the child says, I've been, you know, oh, that looks pretty cool. You know, you could do that. You can come up with something like that. Let's explore it together. I don't know anything about it either. I would love to learn it with you. There's just so many tiny little tweaks that actually make your life so much more enjoyable and easy.
Yeah.
That it's life-changing for these kids. And the two most formative aspects of a kid's life is home and school. So if we can get on the same page with that, just imagine what we can create in these kids.
I have, what about Common Core? I mean, holy crap.
Good question. I actually think that Common Core is a step in the right direction of inquiry-based learning. I see. I appreciate that they're trying to make it more student-centered and inquiry-based. I do appreciate that, but I think they took the easy way out. I think that they're trying to streamline it for the majority of teachers who might be opposed to learning something new or don't want to put in the extra effort. I'm not saying all teachers are like that, but there are some. So when you're telling them you have to start teaching this way, you really got to streamline it for them. And I think that what ended up happening, and just because I now tutor these kids, it just caused mass confusion and it missed the mark. So what I do appreciate is at least it's a step in the right direction of acknowledging we have to reshape it, but I think they try to take an easier path. It takes a lot more than just, here's a new book of questions and follow this. You know, it's a little more than that. It's a mindset shift.
And Joe says, hey, it's not my fault. I'm perfect.
We didn't doubt it. We knew.
Yeah, we knew. But so, you know, Glenn Moore.
Because, go ahead.
I got to tell you, Glenn Morshower, who I do a show with on Sunday night, he's been a Hollywood actor for 45 years. He's an amazing, one of my, if not my best, he's probably my best friend in the world. But when they raise their kids, and he teaches this, he has an acting school and he does coaching, and he says, he taught his two children this. There's a saying of, if you could be anything that you could be in the entire world when you grow up, what would that be? And he said, we changed that as parents. We changed the way that we said that to our kids. And it was a one-word change. Since you can be anything that you can be.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Since you can be anything that you can be, what's that going to be?
One word. Totally different mindset. Mm-hmm.
And I love, and I know you have that. I can just tell that's who you are, right? Like I feel it, I see it. So Joe said, hey. So, but don't you agree with that mindset?
100%. And the idea that it is such a small shift that anyone can do, that it doesn't take a huge amount of effort or all these extra resources, that it really is even just the words you use towards the children. they're soaking it up, and it's shaping who they see themselves as, what they see the world as, their opportunities, just tiny, tiny little things.
Yeah. My wife,
yeah.
We're not fans of it.
I'm not either, to be honest, but I see what they were trying to do. And education is, and part of why I'm not in it anymore. I'm not a teacher anymore. It's extremely political. And for that reason, it's very slow. And sometimes they forget that what the goal of it is we're supposed to be teaching these kids. It's not about this, and that. It becomes really much more of a business than what its original intentions are. And that's, again, a product of the system that needs to be shifted for sure.
Yeah. Weldon says, I'm literally sitting here putting a puzzle together, and sitting still is driving me crazy.
That's fine. Get up and move.
That's right. Just take your phone with you and watch us. So I'm blown away that it's been an hour. Like, it feels like it's been.
Sorry.
No, we can go over. It's the internet and it's my show. We can go as long as we want. So, right. So unless you have somewhere you have to be, if we need to end.
You can get me talking about this stuff all day long.
I love this.
And I think the world needs to hear it. I think that we're definitely in a shift where people are realizing they always maybe knew something was wrong, but now it's in their homes, in their face every day. And they're going, okay, we need to fix this because it's not working.
Yeah. There's some funny comments on here. Joe's brother's on here giving me crap now. Return your Ken Walls is my best friend t-shirt. Oh my God.
I thought mine was in the mail.
So you got into you became a teacher.
Yeah.
How long did you teach in a school?
I was teaching for 5 years, and I loved my job and loved my school. Oh, thanks, Ernest. But when I moved to Chicago, and this is probably going to be unpopular as well, I tried to find similar schools that allowed me as a teacher the freedom to teach. And I was unfortunately finding most of the schools were too focused on the test scores. And what my days looked like was I was teaching again biology in low-income neighborhoods. And here I was in high school, and I was handing out packets of test questions every day where question 1 had nothing to do with question 2 or 3. It was completely unrelated. It was packets. I had a storage unit full of microscopes, and, I would get my kids, I did a lot of STEM. So we were building all the time, and I had all this stuff and they wouldn't let me do it. So I was miserable, and kind of back to that idea of if it doesn't make you happy, then change it. Yeah. And I had been tutoring the whole time while I was a teacher to supplement my income because, we don't make money. And I then decided to start my own tutoring company. So that was in 2011 is when I didn't really start it as a company. I just started tutoring full time. And taking all these years of experience and all these ideas I've accumulated, and now working one-on-one with the kids, and it just exploded. I mean, it got to the point where I was 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I was running all over town. So then I ended up hiring tutors. So bringing in people who you can tell when you meet another educator or another person who has a similar mindset and isn't going to be the one sitting at the bar complaining about their students, but is instead going to look at everything as an opportunity or something to be excited about. And I brought in a bunch of tutors and started, training them in my methods and releasing them out. And now it's just exponential. And so I have it in Illinois and Texas, but obviously now we're fully online. We've been online the whole time, but fully online. And it's just been incredible since it's been 9 years. I've had students go through high school, go through college, come out of it, and to just see the type of people that they've become.
Yeah.
And things that we've said to them that have stuck with them and shaped who they are is really rewarding, and knowing that we're doing the right thing, that we are creating these movers and shakers who have the right mindset and who are, empathetic and self-aware, but also extremely intelligent and driven. and letting them out there into the world. It's so, you know, even with all the doom and gloom going on right now, I'm always like, don't worry, guys, this next round of kids are going to fix it. You know, like they're just phenomenal.
Look what Charles Coachman just said. That is absolutely mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing.
It's a mess. And this is part of why I kept going to charter schools, and charter schools have their own issues. So I can't say anything about all charter schools, but the charter schools I was at, I loved that the owner was the person I saw every day. We were all on the same page. We all were dedicated to our job. If we didn't do our job, we were fired. We didn't get tenure. I have my own opinions about tenure in the teachers union. Don't get me started, but yeah, it's just so political that it's lost the point of what we're supposed to do. And we just have all this red tape as even the good teachers. We can't do, like I said, I was doing test questions because how do they get their funding? Test scores. We have to find a better way, you know? So I love now that I have the opportunity to work with kids who are technically the ones who tend to slip through the cracks, who are the ADD, who are the ones with the learning difficulties, who are the ones with the behavior problems, or the ones that need more because they're just not challenged enough. So they want enrichment or something else. I love that I can help them with the curriculum, but I'm also teaching all these other little things they don't even realize with those simple shifts of not if, but since, you know, it's so minor.
I mean, can you imagine if you would have had Joe Ingram, Frank's brother, as a student? He may have actually turned out to be somebody if you would have been his teacher.
Oh, it's never too late. Send him my way.
Joe's a good dude. I'm just kidding. But he, you know, I mean, I was the same way. Joe's talking about he was the class clown. I was too. I spent more time in the principal's office than I spent in but you know, back then, man, they pulled out a paddle and you got your ass cracked if you'd like, you know, at least where I went to school. So,
well, and there's lessons in that, right? You at this point, you kind of do need to respect authority. Like there's certain things that you might have a boss you don't like, and what are you going to do? You know, you still got to work your way through it and then work on other things. So there's life skills in that, but I really encourage kids to find who they are, their own, I call it their unique voice, and run with that. So if they have that class clown mentality, they may end up being more in a leadership position down the line. You know, I don't want to squash it, but we do need to direct it at the right times.
Yeah. I think that, you know, somebody said to me, because our 10-year-old daughter has this just incredible drive and energy. And somebody said to me yesterday, man, don't ever squash her energy, her little, she's got, and I'm like, I encourage it. Like, you want to be crazy? Let's go be crazy. Like, you want to learn? Let's learn. But I encourage her to be, you know, my wife and I have had this conversation. I'm like, if she doesn't want to go, she's like, my wife, and she's on here. She said, well, you know, we got a plan for her college and make. I said, what if she doesn't want to go to college? She goes, she's going to college. And now this was years ago. I think she's probably had a little bit of a shift now, but I was like, you know, I literally don't like, if she doesn't want to go to college, if it's something that a college, like for business, why go get a degree in business administration today? I don't understand that. So,
and to be honest, I've gotten so many jobs, not because of my degree, but because of my experience.
Right.
That people said when I walked in, you just have such an interesting story. I just want to talk to you. And that, you know, and again, I went to Fresno State, which is not a very well-known college, but it's never held me back from getting what I wanted because I fought for it and I worked really hard. So I always think it's good to plan because you never know if your kid will want to, you know, go to college, and college is expensive. Yeah. But I think if they have a legitimate reason for not wanting to do something, and there's actually a reason behind it, not just I don't want to, then okay, let's do it. You know, let's direct a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this conversation. So talk a little bit about Justin Breen is in here, by the way. I don't know if you've seen his comments, but he's such a good dude. And talk a little bit about your company. And is it national? Can anybody sign up with you? Is it just in Chicago?
So I originally started it in the city of Chicago, and then I, about 3 years ago, expanded it through Texas and also the suburbs of Chicago. And Texas seems like a strange shift, but there's a lot of structures in the way that they do things in their schools, and also family values and emphasis on education, which made it a very easy partnership. And so I've been working with in-person tutors in Illinois and Texas, but we've always offered online. So we've had students in Poland and France and Puerto Rico and California and North Carolina. I mean, they've always been all over, but I found that a lot of parents have been they think that in-person is the most efficient, as much as I try to tell them, no, we can do it online. In fact, some kids do better online because it's one screen they're focused on. So I think now that parents are doing their own Zoom meetings and seeing it is efficient, and you don't have to be sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day, just like I don't have to sit at work for 8 hours a day, and I can still get, things done,
right?
That they're more open to it. And that's when I'm starting to get more and more people. So yes, we are online, international, whoever needs our help, we are here. I currently have about 40 tutors. I'm in a hiring spree right now, so I'm probably getting up to about 60. And
what's your website address?
Worldwise Tutoring with an S. Worldwise Tutoring.com. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to bring in a lot of people for this new pivot. So, there it is. So that's pretty cool. So before this, we've always said, someone comes to us, my kid is failing math. Sure, we'll help them with math. On the side, we're doing all the other stuff. I just called it learning and life skills. I didn't really say what it was. I didn't call it metacognition or growth mindset or I never said any of these things. But I think that now the world's ready to hear it. And I've really shifted our messaging. And I want to put it out there to people who are potentially looking for, it's going to be a little more work. Your kid is going to work. We're going to make them work. But what's going to happen is down the line, in a couple months, I always tell my tutors, if in 2-3 months, mom says they're doing so great, they love their time with you, but we really don't need you anymore. But, either we're going to keep working with you because they love it, or we'll come back when we need you. That's how I know we did a good job, because we don't want them to need us. We're not their crutch. We're not a miracle worker. We're here to bring out something that they already have, while also their grades and their scores. Okay, yes, that's going to happen. All of our kids end up getting into their top choice high school. They get into one of their top 3 colleges. I mean, our kids are extremely successful, but it's more than that. And so I'm now at the point where I'm trying to really let people know, we have to reevaluate how we're teaching these kids, and then thank you, and be open to shifting the opportunities that we give to them. And not just basing it, like you said, all on grades, or all on a test score, or all on you must go to college. Every kid is different.
So Sherry says, I wish we had something like that in Oregon. I really don't want my kids in school. Well, you do, right?
Yeah. So Sherry, you can reach out to me. One of the things that's going on right now that I'm really trying to help families do is form these learning pods. So it's basically you're taking a group of families that are all taking the same precautions against the virus, but you're only really together, and I'm giving you an instructor and working on helping you find a venue or whatever it is, so that you can give the children that social aspect and help them with the e-learning, but we're also still doing all of our little mind things we do to get them to be, like I call them, lifelong learners. But then you can have a few hours a day to work and feel not guilty about it. So I am working. I have, a family in California I'm working with, one in Washington. They're really, I'm working on so many different states and helping to coordinate that for them. So reach out to me. This is a new project for me. So it's still in its phases, but it'll be ready in the next couple of weeks, where I'll start putting people together, and I'm calling them learning pods.
That is so incredibly cool. Wow.
Yeah.
So my wife said, have you thought of offering foreign language study?
We do. Literally, what do you want? We have it. You want origami, you want chess, you want leadership, you want acting, you want coding, you want robotics. I mean, literally.
What about French?
Yeah, every language you could imagine, we
You're
have it. I have.
To say we.
Oh, sorry, I don't know it. I have tutors that do
it. My wife speaks French, so she studied in Paris or in France. So, Paris, I guess. But
the tutors I bring in, I don't bring in a tutor that can only do math. I always bring in tutors that not only have this like same passion and mindset as me, but I want to give you one instructor that can literally do anything you want. So I have tutors that are extremely multifaceted. They all, have their degrees or PhD or master or, 20 years of experience. Like they're just very well versed in all of this. Which degrees are one thing. I don't just base it off of that. I also really dig into the person and make sure that they can teach, and have the right mindset. But yeah, I know.
That's crazy. Freaking crazy people. I mean, but of course they're going to do that because
It's a thing. I'm actually in talk with my attorney. It's going to be expensive. We're trying to figure out, because it is a liability for my business as well, but we need to do something, like these kids, and I'm not really so concerned. The middle and high school kids have been okay. They've been fine with managing the online learning. It's the younger, it's the elementary that are having a little bit of a harder time, because that interpersonal, skills is a very heavy part of their development.
Yeah.
So in my new tutors, I definitely need experience. I need them to be on board with my mission, that we're not just getting these kids to learn to get a high score. I want them to be lifelong learners. I want to instill in them a passion for learning, but also, I get tutors all the time who are like, I can teach math. Cool. What else can you teach? I need more. Nobody needs only help with math. I need someone who can do multiple subjects and offer multiple things to the family. And we pay accordingly. I mean, we pay well because we have amazing, amazing instructors.
So my wife has a great question.
No. So I looked into that in the beginning. It's a process, and there already are so many resources out there that are accredited, and every state is totally different. So I was like, that's a beast I can't even begin to tackle in a few months. So no, but I think the mission of what we're doing is assisting with the e-learning and also providing enrichment, as well as all of the metacognition, the executive functions, interpersonal skills. So we're just providing I always say we're an extension of support for the schools. So whatever they're doing, I want to try to match them and assist, rather than it being like divorced parents and we're over here and you're over there. It's not helpful, So trying to fill in the gaps of what's not working over here.
What ages do you tutor? I think
that's a good question. So up until this happened, we were mostly like 4th grade and above. Okay. Now everything's shifted, and I dropped it down to, I literally have someone in my email box that needs tutoring for a 2-year-old. I'm not kidding. So, and I'm bringing on people who specialize, because it's a totally different. I could never teach the phonics or the fluency, the stuff in the lower grades. I'm the middle school and high school curriculum, so you can't necessarily always do both. So I'm bringing in specialists that can work with the lower kids, and then I already have all my tutors in place for the older kids. So that's, again, why I'm on a hiring spree right now, bringing in people who can help even the younger, because I feel like that's where they're having the most trouble, is the younger kids. The classes are live, but we can video them. So we can record them and send them the video that they can watch later if they miss something. But yeah, they're live online sessions. Or if I can get the right documentation and the waiver set up, I have about half my tutors that are fine with in-person. As long as precautions are in place and my business is protected, obviously they're starting to do in-person again. But with the understanding that if we go back to shelter in place, we're shelter in place, so I can't do anything about that.
Wow. I mean, you are, it was Frank Ingram that said you are a trailblazer, and I agree. Like I just absolutely love this. You make learning fun.
There it is.
I mean,
and that's
it's because, like, oh man, I think that's so important. But look, we've gone 18 minutes over. I think this has been a fantastic interview. Your energy, what you're doing to help the children of this world. You know, it's ironic. 2 days in a row, I've had 2 interviews that both of you are helping kids, and I just absolutely love that. So
that's where we're going to see the change for sure.
Yeah.
And that's where the hope is, you know, where you can come out of these dark places knowing that it's going to get better.
You're amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate
that. Look, Wonder Woman.
That is my nickname, Wonder Woman. Yep.
I love that. That's so awesome. Wow. Lindsey, thank you so much for coming on and being here and spending all of this time. I could talk all day to you. This is amazing stuff.
Thank you.
Where on social media, where can everybody follow you? Where's the best place? Where are you most active?
I'm everywhere. We're Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Just look up Worldwise Tutoring. I'm literally on Pinterest. I'm everywhere.
If somebody wanted to talk with you directly, how would they do that? Just
so my email address is Lindsey, and then at worldwisetutoring.com.
Okay. And Jill wants to know how to follow you, I guess on Facebook or Instagram, wherever.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Yeah, just look up Worldwise Tutoring, and I'm everywhere.
You're awesome. Thank you so much. Don't hang up. I'm going to end this. Thank you to everybody who's been on here. If you shared this out, you rock. If you didn't share it out, come on. You just got an F.
Yeah.
You failed. So thank you. I appreciate you. This has been awesome, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much, Lindsey.
You're welcome.